Hey y'all, so my topic is going to be Tolkien's legacy of race in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. I'm a huge Skyrim fan, as y'all probably already know at this point. I've wanted to talk about the races in Skyrim and the races in Tolkien's works for the whole semester, but I couldn't find a place to really fit it in. Um, so I have a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Um, So this is Treebeard from the Two Towers. Learn now the lore of living creatures. First name the four, the free peoples, eldest of all the elf children. Dwarf the delver, darker as houses. Ent the earthborn, old as mountains. Man the mortal, master of horses. We know these as being the four major kind of good races, if you will, in um, in the Lord of the Rings. Uh, And of course, we know that Treebeard adds hobbits to this as well afterwards. So racial stereotypes in Lord of the Rings are no secret to anyone. We've talked about it in class. I just pulled up a Wikipedia article that talks about it. So they're essentially saying um, that it's a mixed bag on what people think about race in Tolkien's works. Uh, they say he was strongly anti-racist both in peacetime and during the two world wars, um, and that he was very against Nazi racial theory. But again, there's pretty good evidence to suggest that um, that a lot of his stereotypes that he included into his works maybe were oriented around real racial stereotypes. So the stereotypes, I just wrote them out here. Dwarves are greedy and loyal. Elves, impish, graceful, advanced, old. Men, power hungry. Wizards, magical abilities. Ents, they're slow, they love nature, they regenerate quickly, etc. So just a little bit more about Elder Scrolls V. It's a single-player, open-world fantasy action role-playing video game. That's a mouthful. Released in 2011, it actually won Game of the Year for that year. It sold over 30 million copies. It's the 19th best-selling video game of all time, and it's known for extensive lore, immersive environments, really dopey Bethesda-esque gameplay, and uh, replay value. I've played through it a couple times myself. So yeah, I'm just gonna get into how I see the races manifest in Skyrim as they were inspired from Tolkien. So starting with the elves, you are given the option to choose from a variety of races when you open Skyrim. Here are three different versions of elves. There's high elves, wood elves, and dark elves. Um, Men and dwarves are kind of lumped together. There are red guards, Nords, Imperials, and Bretons. And some of the stereotypes associated with men and dwarves uh, in Tolkien's works, such as greed, um, show up in these different races, but we'll get to that later. And then there's just these other races. No ints, obviously no hobbits, but orcs, as you can see in the top left there, are prevalent, as are Khajiits and Argonians. They're just these other races, these kind of less human races. So one notable thing is that all the different races in Skyrim have starting skill bonuses, racial perks, and then a special ability that they can use once a day. I've highlighted in green. Um, uh, as far as the skill bonuses go, there are like 18 skills or something like that, and they increase as you do things, as you gain experience in those areas. But different races start with higher levels in one. It's plus 10 for one skill, and it's plus 5 for 5 others. So just looking at the plus 10 skill for each race kind of shows you how they're stereotyped generally, and also looking at their special ability helps with that too. So if you just look at the dark elves and high elves and wood elves, uh, Dark elves have a +10 to destruction magic, and something called Ancestor's Wrath gets into that kind of ancient history of elves and their like magical ethereal ability. High elves have +10 to illusion magic, and they're highborn. Um, Wood elves +10 to archery and command animal. Think of kind of House of Elrond there. Um, I would get into this, but we're kind of running out of time here. So as far as racial relations themselves in Skyrim, there's tons of it. I wrote down here just a couple of examples of quotes that you'll hear NPCs saying during the game. One of them that's really common is they'll say, "Skyrim is for the Nords," and of course it's Nords saying this. Another one is Nords telling the Imperials, who are these imperialist occupiers of the territory. My ancestors smile upon me, Imperial. Can you say the same? You hear guards all the time saying, "Damned elves, I bet they had something to do with this." Uh, the less human races, Khajiit and Argonians, sell skooma and then try to kill you if you don't buy any. And there's in-battle insults specific to the player's race. All of this stuff is prevalent and pretty problematic. But it's kind of self-aware because Windhelm, which is kind of the center of the Skyrim is for the Nords Skyrim people, you're prompted as when you enter the city for the first time with an encounter where the player sees some pretty overt racism of Nords against a dark elf. And there's actually the dark elves of the city live in one section of the city, and you can go on a side quest to kind of uh, liberate that side of the city. There's a lot going on there and a lot to unpack. And it's been criticized by people before, and I think that's totally warranted. But yeah, race relations are definitely a big deal. So the bottom line, regardless of the intent behind Tolkien's racialization of Middle Earth, his legacy of racialization lives on in influence works like Dungeons and Dragons and Elder Scrolls. Both races in Lord of the Rings and Skyrim serve as ways of fleshing out the social and power dynamics of their worlds. What are the implications of this? On one hand, you could think, having race and race relations and power dynamics and overt racism in games helps to start conversations. I mean, obviously, if races and racial dynamics weren't a part of Skyrim, I wouldn't be talking about it right now. But at the same time, they are damaging, I think. I'm a white guy, so I'm not exactly uh, uh, subject to discrimination all the time, but I'd imagine, and I've heard, just on the internet and stuff, that uh, the way that races are portrayed in Skyrim and by extension in Lord of the Rings, have have a damaging effect on the people who do have to grapple with those issues. So yeah, uh, I think it's an interesting topic of discussion that I would be really interested in looking into further beyond just a 6-minute, 7-minute presentation. So thanks, guys.